Sam was staring at his bank app at 1:15 in the morning, and it didn't even look real. One month, he felt ahead. The next month, he felt trapped. Same paycheck, same bills, but a totally different emotion. And that's the terrifying part. Money isn't math, it's a mood. This is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and the promise is simple but powerful. Doing well with money has less to do with how smart you are and more to do with how you behave. We're going to walk through every major chapter and idea, so by the end, you won't just know what to do. You'll understand why you keep doing what you do even when you know better. Sam is the kind of guy who looks responsible from the outside. Late 20s, solid job. He pays rent on time. He's not reckless. But money still messes with his head in ways he can't explain. He'll be calm for 3 weeks. And then one random headline or one awkward conversation at work flips a switch. Suddenly he's impulsive, or frozen, or chasing some perfect plan he found online at midnight. And Morgan Housel's whole point is, that's normal. Because money is the one topic where everyone thinks they're talking about the same thing, while secretly living in totally different worlds. No one's crazy. That's the first big idea. People do crazy things with money, but no one wakes up and says, let me ruin my life today. People make choices based on what they've personally lived through, and your personal experience is tiny compared to all of history. Yet it shapes most of how you think money works. Think about it. Someone who grew up watching their parents lose everything in a crash will treat risk like a predator in the bushes. Someone who grew up during a long bull market might treat risk like a cute dog on a leash. Same word, completely different meaning. Sam noticed this when he started talking about investing with two coworkers. One coworker acted like investing was basically gambling. The other acted like not investing was the real gamble. They were both confident. They both had facts. But the more Sam listened, the more he realized they were just describing their own origin stories. And that's why money arguments are so heated. It's not about numbers. It's about identity. It's about fear. It's about what you think the future can do to you. It's like trying to explain the ocean to someone who's only ever lived beside a calm lake. You can use the same word, water, but it doesn't create the same feeling in their stomach. Now here's where it gets interesting. Once you accept that everyone has a different money story, you stop trying to win debates. You start trying to build a plan that matches your own reality. And that leads to the second chapter, luck and risk. Most people want simple explanations. They want to believe success is just talent, and failure is just stupidity. Housel says that's a comforting fantasy, because luck and risk are always in the room, even when nobody wants to admit it. He uses the example of Bill Gates. Gates was obviously brilliant, but he also went to a school that, at the exact right time, had rare access to a computer. That's luck. Then there's the story of Kent Evans, who was equally talented, equally ambitious, and died young in an accident. That's risk. Same era, similar starting point, totally different outcome. If that makes you uncomfortable, good, it should. Because once you see how much of life includes luck and risk, you stop worshiping winners like they're perfect, and you stop judging losers like they're broken. Sam tested this idea in his own small life. He looked back at the best money move he'd ever made. It wasn't some genius stock pick. It was boring. It was moving apartments at the right time when a friend offered him a place with cheaper rent. That single moment freed up an extra $200 a month. That money became savings. That savings became calm. He didn't earn that opportunity through intelligence. It just showed up because of timing and relationships. Luck. And then Sam thought about the opposite. A friend of his had a solid plan. And then a surprise car repair hit, followed by a short layoff. That friend didn't suddenly become irresponsible. Risk just arrived. It's like two people running the same marathon. But one gets a tailwind and the other gets a storm. If you only judge the finish line, you miss the whole truth. So what do you do with this? You build humility. You leave room for error. You don't take someone else's extreme outcome and assume you can copy it like a recipe. Because the next chapter is a trap almost nobody sees coming. Never enough. Housel tells a story about Rajat Gupta, a man who had respect, status, wealth, connections, and still risked everything for more. The lesson isn't be satisfied. The lesson is that the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. And Sam knows this one personally. Sam once hit a savings milestone that felt impossible. He remembered the exact day. He was sitting at his kitchen table with a mug of coffee that had gone cold, refreshing his bank app like it was a scoreboard. When he finally crossed his number, he felt a rush. For about 8 minutes. Then his brain did the thing brains do. It immediately whispered, "Okay, now what's the next number?" That's the danger. The moment you tie your happiness to a moving target, you create a life where you never arrive. It's like running on a treadmill with the speed knob controlled by your ego. The faster you run, the faster it speeds up. You don't get to rest, you just get tired. And here's the darker side. Never enough doesn't just apply to wealth. It applies to spending, too. People will buy bigger houses, nicer cars, fancier vacations, not because it makes them happier, but because it protects their identity. It says, "I'm still winning." That's why defining enough is so powerful. Not as a moral statement, as a safety mechanism. Okay, so if that hit a nerve, wait until you hear this. The most powerful force in finance is also the most underappreciated: compounding. Housel calls it confounding compounding for a reason. It's not just that compounding is powerful, it's that people underestimate how it works because they underestimate time. Warren Buffett is the classic example. People obsess over his brilliance, his stock picks, his wisdom. And sure, he's great. But a huge chunk of his advantage comes from the fact that he's been investing for an absurdly long time. Time is the silent engine. Sam finally understood compounding when he thought about it like a snowball. Not a metaphorical snowball, a real one. When you roll a snowball, the first few pushes feel pointless. It's tiny, it barely changes. You're cold, your hands are wet, you're thinking, why am I doing this? Then it gets heavy. Then it starts collecting more snow with less effort. Then it becomes a monster. That's compounding. And that's why the next idea matters so much. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are not the same skill. Getting wealthy usually requires optimism, risk, hustle, bold moves, believing you'll win. Staying wealthy requires the opposite: humility, a little paranoia, the constant awareness that what you built can be taken away faster than it came. This is where a lot of people blow up. They think the same behavior that helped them win will help them keep winning. But the game changes. Sam saw a version of this with a guy he used to follow online. This guy posted screenshots of massive gains. He talked like a superhero. He made risk look sexy, and Sam almost copied him. Almost. Then one day the guy vanished. Account deleted. Silence. Sam later found out through a friend in a group chat that the guy had used too much leverage. One bad move wiped him. Not reduced him. Wiped him. And that's when Sam learned the first rule of long-term money. Survival comes first. It's like climbing a mountain. You can't enjoy the view if you fall off the cliff. The goal isn't to prove how fearless you are. The goal is to make it home. And that leads perfectly into the next chapter. Tails, you win. This chapter is a reality check about how outcomes actually work. In investing, in business, in careers, a small number of events can drive a huge share of results. Most companies fail. A few succeed wildly. Most stock returns come from a small set of winners. Most entrepreneurs don't become icons. A few do. So if you judge someone's strategy based on the one outcome you can see, you might be learning the wrong lesson. Sam thought about his own career. Most of his year is normal, routine, meetings, emails, small wins. But then he remembered one moment that changed everything. One conversation with a manager where he volunteered for a project nobody wanted. That project led to visibility. That visibility led to a better role. That role increased his income. That extra income made saving easier, one tail event. So the real skill isn't predicting the future perfectly. The skill is staying in the game long enough to catch enough of the good tail events without letting the bad ones destroy you. And this is the part most people get completely wrong. They try to optimize everything. They try to build a perfect plan that avoids discomfort. But money isn't a game of perfection. It's a game of endurance. Now we get to one of the most emotional chapters: freedom. Housel says the highest form of wealth isn't buying stuff, it's buying control over your time. It's the ability to say no, the ability to walk away, the ability to choose. Sam had a small taste of this once, and he still remembers it. He had built a little emergency fund, nothing huge, but it existed. And then his boss asked him to take on extra work that would destroy his weekends for the next 2 months. Old Sam would have said yes instantly. Fear-driven, people-pleasing, trying to look valuable. But this time he paused. And he said, "I can't." His voice even shook a little. But he said it anyway. And the world didn't end. He didn't get fired. He didn't get punished. He got respect. That's what savings buys you. It buys you choices. It buys you space. It buys you time. It's like having an exit door in a room that's slowly filling with smoke. You may never use it, but just knowing it's there changes how you breathe. And then Housel hits you with a twist. The things people buy to look rich often have the lowest real payoff, which brings us to one of the most memorable ideas in the book, the man in the car paradox. When you see someone in a fancy car, you don't think, that person must be great. You think, I would look great if I was in that car. People want admiration, but they mistakenly buy things that primarily create admiration in their own imagination. It's not about the driver, it's about the viewer. Sam realized he did this in a smaller way. He once spent too much on a jacket. Not because it was warm, not because it was durable, but because he imagined walking into a room and getting that silent nod of respect. He wore it to a friend's birthday dinner. No one cared. Not in a mean way. They just had their own lives, their own worries, their own self-conscious thoughts. Sam went home and laughed at himself, but it stung too, because he saw the pattern. He wasn't buying fabric. He was buying a fantasy of how people would see him. That's why the next chapter lands so hard. Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is not the car. It's the money not spent on the car. Wealth is the quiet ability to handle problems without panic. Wealth is the invisible buffer. It's like an iceberg. The tiny part above water is what people show. The massive part below is what keeps it stable. And now you might be thinking, okay, so should I just save everything and never enjoy life? No, that's not the point. The point is understanding that spending is easy. Saving is hard. And saving is the part that gives you power. Which is why Housel has a chapter that sounds almost too obvious. Save money. But the way he frames it is different. He says saving isn't just a way to reach a specific goal. Saving is also a way to maintain independence in an unpredictable world. Life will surprise you. Not maybe, will. And most people don't go broke because they're dumb. They go broke because they didn't leave room for the surprises. Sam learned this the hard way with a tiny surprise that felt huge in the moment. He had planned his month down to the dollar. He felt proud. Then his phone screen cracked. Simple problem. But the replacement cost made his stomach drop. It wasn't catastrophic. It was just annoying. And because he had no buffer, it felt like an emergency. After that, he started saving without attaching it to a specific purchase. He saved for the unknown, for the weird, for the random. That's like carrying a small umbrella even when the forecast says sunshine. You're not being negative, you're being prepared. Then Housel says something that makes logical people uncomfortable. Reasonable is better than rational. Because humans aren't spreadsheets. We're emotional, we're inconsistent. We have bad days. And if your financial plan requires you to be perfectly rational forever, it will fail. A reasonable plan is one you can stick with. Sam had a rational plan once. He tried to cut every expense, track every category, optimize every decision. For 1 month, he was a machine. Then he had one stressful week at work, and his plan collapsed like a folding chair. He ordered food. He bought random stuff online. He treated himself in a way that looked like self-care but felt like self-sabotage. Afterward, he didn't need more discipline. He needed a more reasonable plan. One that allowed small joys without turning into guilt. One that didn't require superhuman willpower. It's like dieting. The best diet isn't the one that's technically perfect. It's the one you can actually live with. But here's the crazy part. Even the most reasonable plan in the world won't protect you from the next big truth. Surprise! Housel reminds you that history is full of unexpected events that changed everything. And the biggest financial mistakes often happen when people assume the future will look like the recent past. And Sam saw this when he thought about how confident people get during normal times. A few good years, and suddenly everyone believes good years are the default setting. Then something weird happens. A crisis, a bubble, a layoff wave, a sudden inflation spike, a medical issue, a family emergency, and the people who are most shocked are often the ones who were most confident. Surprise is not an exception, it's a feature. So the smart move is not to predict surprises perfectly, it's to build your life so surprises don't destroy you, which takes us into a chapter that feels like armor. Room for error. Room for error is the gap between what you think will happen and what can happen. It's the cushion that turns disasters into inconveniences. Sam loved this idea because it felt like permission. Permission to not maximize everything. Permission to not invest every last dollar. Permission to not live on the edge, because living on the edge feels exciting until it's terrifying. Room for error is like leaving extra time to get to the airport. The optimized plan is arriving exactly at boarding time. The wise plan is arriving early because you know traffic exists. And now, as if Housel is reading your mind, he hits you with a chapter called You'll Change. This one is sneaky. Housel's point is that people make long-term plans assuming they'll want the same things forever. But humans evolve. Priorities shift, values move, goals change. And if you make a plan that only works for the version of you that exists today, you might feel trapped later. Sam had a moment like this when he looked at his old goals from a few years ago, and he was shocked by how much he cared about status back then. He wanted the flashy apartment, the successful lifestyle, the image. Now he wanted calm. He wanted flexibility. He wanted to not dread Monday. Same person, different wants. So the financial skill becomes building a plan with flexibility. So future, you can breathe because nothing's free. Every decision has a cost, not just in dollars, but in stress, time, sleep, relationships. This is where Housel explains that everything has a price, and the price isn't always visible. Volatility is the price of admission for long-term returns. Uncertainty is the price of admission for entrepreneurship. Hard conversations are the price of admission for boundaries. If you want the reward without paying the price, you'll either quit too early or make a desperate move at the worst time. Sam learned this during a market dip. He watched his investments fall and he felt physically tense. He kept checking his phone like it was a medical device. He wanted the upside, but he hated the feeling. Then he reframed it. The discomfort wasn't proof the plan was broken. The discomfort was the fee. It's like going to the gym. The soreness isn't a sign you did it wrong, it's part of the deal. Now you might be thinking, okay, so if people are emotional, surprises happen, and everyone sees the world differently. How do you avoid getting influenced by other people's decisions? Perfect, because that's exactly where the next chapters go. You and me. Housel explains how much of our behavior is shaped by social comparison. You don't need to be rich to feel rich. You need to be richer than the people you compare yourself to. And that comparison ladder never ends. Sam felt this in a painfully modern way. He was scrolling social media and saw someone his age buying a house. Big smile, keys in hand, comments full of congratulations. It hit Sam like a punch. He didn't even want a house that day. He wanted to not feel behind. So he started doing mental math. He started imagining catching up. He started looking for faster returns, riskier moves. He started feeling that old itch. Do something dramatic. Then he caught himself. He wasn't reacting to his life. He was reacting to someone else's highlight reel. That's how people get pulled into bubbles. Not because they're greedy villains, because they're human. They don't want to be left out. And that leads straight into another trap. The seduction of pessimism. Pessimism sounds smart, it sounds serious, it sounds realistic. Optimism can sound naive. Pessimism can sound like maturity. But Housel argues that pessimism often sells because it tells a clean story. Bad news feels more certain. Good news often comes slowly and quietly. Think about it. A crash happens fast. A recovery happens gradually. A layoff happens in one meeting. A career builds over years. Sam realized this when he noticed the kind of content that hooked him. It was always urgent, always scary, always predicting collapse. It made him feel informed. while also making him anxious. And the problem with pessimism is it can paralyze you. It can make you hold cash forever. It can make you miss the slow, boring progress that actually builds wealth. It's like refusing to plant seeds because you're worried it might rain. Sure, storms happen, but nothing grows if you never plant. Now, if that was surprising, wait until you hear this. There's a chapter called When You'll Believe Anything, and it explains how stories spread in finance. People want certainty. They want a narrative. They want to believe the person selling advice has control. So when things are uncertain, people cling to explanations that feel comforting, even if they're wrong. This is where scams, bubbles, and bad advice thrive. Not because everyone is stupid, because everyone is scared. Sam saw this when a friend told him about a guaranteed investing strategy. The friend sounded excited, almost relieved, like he'd found a secret door out of stress. Sam asked a few questions. The answers were vague, the confidence was high. And that combination is dangerous. High certainty plus low clarity is the smell of trouble. So Sam did something he'd never done before. He waited. He didn't jump. He didn't need to be first. He needed to be safe. That's the emotional discipline the book keeps pointing toward. It's not about being fearless, it's about being patient when your brain wants drama. And then Housel gives you a chapter that ties a lot together. All together now. This part feels like a checklist for sanity. Not a perfect formula, but principles that work across different lives. Because here's the truth. Personal finance is personal. What works for your neighbor might be wrong for you. What works for a billionaire might be useless for someone building from zero. What works for a 20-year-old might be reckless for a 50-year-old. So the goal is not copying someone else's strategy. The goal is understanding your own goals, your own risk tolerance, and your own definition of enough. Sam finally got this when he stopped trying to win the internet's approval. He had been chasing the best investment plan, the optimal savings rate, the correct portfolio. Then he asked a different question. What plan can I stick with when I'm tired, when I'm scared, when life gets weird? That question changed everything, because a plan that works on paper but fails in real life is not a plan. It's a fantasy. And now we reach the final chapter, Confessions. This is where Housel shares what he does personally, and the vibe is important. He's not saying, do exactly this. He's showing you that even someone who studies money for a living chooses simplicity and behavior over complexity. The big thread across the entire book is this. Doing well with money isn't about being a genius. It's about having a handful of emotional skills. Patience, humility, room for error, the ability to define enough, the ability to ignore social noise, the willingness to be reasonable instead of perfectly rational, and the discipline to keep going. Especially when the world tries to pull you into panic. Sam isn't fixed after learning this. He's still human. He still feels envy sometimes. He still gets nervous during uncertainty. He still has days where he wants to splurge and days where he wants to sell everything. But now he understands what's happening inside him. He sees the pattern before it becomes a disaster. He notices the story his brain is telling him. And that awareness gives him a new kind of power. Not the power to predict markets, the power to predict himself. And once you can do that, money stops feeling like a monster. It starts feeling like a tool. Now let's turn all of this into a few practical moves you can actually use starting today, without needing a finance degree. First, define your own version of enough. Not forever, just for this season of life. Write it down in plain language. Enough might be, I can pay my bills, save each month, and sleep at night. The moment you define enough, you stop letting the goalpost drag you around. Second, build room for error on purpose. Save a buffer that has no job except protecting you from surprises. You don't need a dramatic reason. That's the point. It's insurance against life being weird. Third, choose a reasonable plan you can stick to. If your plan makes you miserable, you won't follow it. Find a system that feels boring, repeatable, and sustainable, even when you're stressed. Fourth, stop comparing your behind the scenes to other people's highlight reels. If you feel that I'm falling behind, panic, pause and ask, behind who? That one question can save you from years of bad decisions. Fifth, accept the price of admission. If you want long-term growth, you'll pay with volatility. If you want freedom, you'll pay with patience and saving. If you want peace, you'll pay with not chasing every shiny thing. Paying the price calmly is what separates builders from chasers. And one last thing, remember that no one's crazy, including you. Oh, your money habits are a reflection of your life experiences. So instead of shame, use curiosity. Instead of panic, use preparation. That's how you get better. That's it for this video. I hope it was useful and gave you something real to think about. Thanks for watching and have a great day.